and then I end up getting involved with a band that was Branch Davidian people, and then I had to get out, so I came back.
So wait a minute, wait. We're not going to gloss over this Branch Davidian thing, right?
Oh, I was coming on that one too.
All right, whole new chapter, new interview,
all
part
right.
2.0.
The David Ellefson Show. Featuring Grammy Award winner David Ellefson and respected metal journalist Joshua Toomey. Presented by EllefsonEmporium.com. Here is David and Joshua.
David Ellefson here, Joshua Toomey, David Ellefson Show. So today we have our friends from Byzantine coming on the show. So how you guys doing? What's happening?
Ryan, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I can't complain much. Just got off of work, my day job, so just moving from one computer to the other. So here we are.
Byzantine, the pride of West Virginia, right?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I just found like money underneath my my computer, so
nice.
I'm off to a good start. Yeah, I have a rental facility here. I'm in our recording studio, and I rent it out. So every once in a while, I'll come in, and the guys will just leave me cash.
Nice. You know what? I'm gonna look. No money under my computer.
Nothing.
Maybe
no
having
random,
the rental.
no
Maybe having
money.
the rental's better.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you all interviewing Ryan and I. We find this to be a great pleasure for us to talk to you two. You guys are legends, and I know you're doing us a favor. And but yeah, we really appreciate it. We've been really excited.
You're welcome.
About this.
You're most welcome. So look, to kick it off, you guys have a new album out. Harbingers, is that how you say it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And on Metal Blade. And it's funny, you guys are like this very well-respected, well-loved band. Like Chris Cale from Five Finger Death Punch tweets about you, or makes messages about you. Like you've got these icons in corners all over the world that go, oh man, new Byzantine album, awesome, so how does that happen? How does where do you get all that from?
That's a good question. I think the question is how did we get like all of our heroes and like bigger bands to like us, but we can't get a fan base? And it's been the weirdest thing. Normally you get a fan base, and then all of a sudden your peers and people you look up to, then they find you. But it's been the opposite.
So you have the respect, not the fan base. What's better, fan base or respect? I don't know.
Oh, respect.
Yeah.
Because you could have the inverse and not have
you're finding cash under your computer. Who needs a fan base? Would you have the respect of all your heroes, right?
I have found out that street cred is a way harder thing to get than it is just some kind of modicum of commercial success.
Yeah.
So, and street cred, it comes with years. You have to do this for fucking ever. And luckily we've stuck it out long enough to where like, Mike Portnoy and Chris Cale and Gene Hoglan and, all these guys who we look up to, enjoy our albums. And that to me is, whether we make money off of this or not, that is the cherry on top.
Got it. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you say those people, and you have a sound that I can imagine though all three of them liking, right? There's kind of this modern metal thing, so I can see why a Five Finger Death Punch guy would like it, right? There's a progressive element, so I can see why Portnoy would like it. Certainly the drumming's fantastic. So Hoglan and Portnoy and these kind of guys, and and there's an old school, it's not thrash, but there's an old school haunting metal thing. So like I guess a Gene Hoglan, maybe that's where he fits in, right? So you've got all of these guys. So how many? When I was a kid, there was a record. I never understood it. I'd always see it in the stores. It was from Black Oak, Arkansas, and it was called 10-Year Overnight Success. And At about 20 years of my own career, then I started to realize, oh, that's what they're talking about. It only took them 10 years, it's taken me 20. You know what I mean? So, talk about just the building blocks and, building. Because, look, there's a lot of people just like you, bands of all sizes, kind of going, all right, yeah, how do you do this? What's the trick? Where's the secret sauce on all this?
What do you think, Ryan? Where have we been able to strike the nail correctly in order to crack a little bit of this music code?
Man, that is a good question. I wasn't around. Well, I've been friends with OJ for 25 years, basically since the band started, but I didn't join it until about 8-9 years ago. I joined the band somewhere around there.
Well, we tried to get you about 15 years ago, and remember you were getting your master's degree, and you're like, I'm a little fucking busy.
Yeah, didn't work out. But I think it's maybe it's just consistently like putting out material that the band is proud of, and kind of staying true to what we like and what I feel like. Even knowing the guys, I feel like every album that is out is like the perfect representation of the mindset of the band at the time. And they're not trying to put out something that they don't believe in or trying to chase a certain sound that maybe doesn't come natural to the band. And I know that's kind of how we operated on this new one, is just like, let's just write what comes natural to us. And luckily we all have a sort of a Venn diagram that we have a large circle that we kind of meet in the middle. And we also we have a very dedicated, and we're talking about fan bases. We have a small fan base, but they are dedicated. They love us constantly. Like, when are you coming to the West Coast? When are you coming to Texas? When are you coming to Europe? So somehow those guys and girls still stick it with us. They understand that we're a bunch of working guys putting out metal records, and if we can get to you, we will. But they are patient, and I think staying engaged with them helps a lot too. So
I think to parlay on top of that, when we first started and first got signed in early 2000, we had a goal in mind, which was to experiment early and often and never stray from that. So our first couple albums, we were trying to experiment with our sound. And by the time we hit our second album, that's when we kind of really struck fire. And we've stayed on that path to experiment and every album to try to evolve, but still have a common tie-in to that original Fear Factory, Opeth, Meshuggah, Pantera, mishmash. And as we've got older now, I'm in my 50s, and some of our other guys are 50s. We still try to move a little progressively. We're singing a little more, focusing on more key changes, but still trying to keep that patented kind of Byzantine Venn diagram, like Ryan said. And our fans really enjoy that. They're like, I think if we didn't experiment, they would lynch us.
No, you're kind of talking about the early days, and I was trying to find a connection for everybody. And the one thing that I saw was actually Chris Adler was one of your early, champions of the band. Took you guys out with Lamb of God. Obviously, Chris Adler goes on to work with David Ellefson. Kind of talk about the early days of kind of running into Chris Adler and him taking a liking to the band and then taking you guys out.
So, when we played around West Virginia for like 2 or 3 years with a drum machine. It's a very small scene. We could not find a drummer, and we ended up having to employ a guitar player in Charleston, West Virginia, that had just learned drums. And we were like, fuck it. You're great. Let's just try it. And within like 6 months, we caught the ear of Chris Adler. I sent out, our merch guy sent out a demo, and Chris got a hold of it. They were in the process of writing their second album, which I believe was
is that Ashes of the Wake, maybe?
No,
Let the Palace
Townsend record.
Yeah, as the
Yeah.
palace is burned. So Chris got a hold of me, and they had just finished New American Gospel, and they said, look, we're doing some shows up the East Coast. Your sound is very unique. He was like, I would love to take you guys out, see if you're not idiots. And if you aren't, maybe I could get you a deal with Prosthetic. He said, I'm shopping I want to shop you guys and another band from France called Gojira to Prosthetic. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of Gojira. Well, he hit on one of them big time.
Right.
Yeah. So we went out and did some dates with them. We got our asses handed to us. Like, we were playing with all kinds of bands that were already established. And it was a great learning experience. And Chris, bless his heart, he put up with us. Chris is one of the smartest band managers I have ever been around. And he, put us in the position to succeed. But then when they jumped to Epic Records, we kind of felt like we lost our big brothers. And then financial problems we hit, coming from West Virginia, we had all this pressure to just work our day jobs and stuff. So then we kind of broke up for a little bit. But we do have another connection, which was who David mentioned, which is Chris Sprinkle. Me and you would know him because we played a bunch of shows with 12 Volt Negative Earth back in the day, which was your band. Yeah.
Hey, wow. Check that out.
Yeah.
Actually, I just texted our old guitar player Eli, and I'm like, because I was like, didn't you guys play a bunch of shows with Byzantine? And he was like, oh yeah, we played a ton with those guys.
Yeah, we did. And Chris asked me to ask you about the time you borrowed his Warlock bass in Louisville.
Yeah, man, that was I think I've actually talked about that with David before, but we actually we show up at the venue. We're the first band. Cut Love Kill at the time was his band. They were the second band on the bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I set up, we get the stage ready, and I propped my bass up against my amp because I didn't have a guitar stand. I was 18 or whatever at the time on my first ever tour. And the sound guy walked by and knocked it over, broke the headstock. And I'm walking around the venue asking every bass player to let me borrow a bass. And, Chris Sprinkle at the time, Chris Kale now, handed me a Warlock bass. And this is like height of my nu metal era, long dreadlocks, big baggy pants, big ass shirt, and a Warlock. And I'm like, I've got video of that show. It's wild to look at. I felt so silly playing that bass, but man, it was a cool bass. And then years later, when I go to join Primer 55, Chris, joins 12 Volt Negative Earth, and kind of, and that's where you guys kind of all the program of all of us, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I saw Primer 55 multiple times because you guys would come to Huntington and play X Fest. And it was always a massive turnout, thousands and thousands of people. So yeah,
I had one of the most random. Man, we were in like Morgantown or something, and I remember I was washing my hands in the bathroom, and I went to throw the paper towel away, and my wedding ring flew off, and I heard it bang around in there, but I was like, I'll never forget that. Like, I'd be like, no, I swear I was just washing my hands. I didn't take my wedding ring off. Thankfully I found it. Yeah, but yeah, that was a fun thing to try to explain to the wife. While I'm on tour, my wedding ring disappears.
Yeah, I've been there. But yeah, Lamb of God was very instrumental in us taking off at the beginning. We did a lot of shows with him. He got us signed. I'm forever indebted to Chris Adler and those guys. So.
Yeah, Chris is great. It's funny, even when he was playing in Megadeth, he would always be on the cutting edge of finding these sort of random bands off to the side, and their names even escape me right now. But and then they would often, a couple years later, they would sort of come up the ranks into something, and he did have a good ear for finding things that were clever, unique. Obviously, current company included here, right? To find things that stood out, that were something a little different, and which is not easy, and especially when you kind of go into smaller maybe regional, more rural areas. I grew up in one of those too in Minnesota.
Yeah.
You know, lots of times by the time, you know, for me, for instance, by the time we heard of a band, you know, we were just trying to be like them, right? We were never ahead of the curve, right? It was always just, well, Iron Maiden's cool, or now Motley Crue is in, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, I guess this is what everyone else is doing. So, but to have a new sound, I mean, talk about that a little bit, to have something new, unique, that, and not just once, but pretty much consistently throughout all your albums, you've retained that sound.
Yeah. You know, our main thing was to rip off as many people as possible. And like, if you just take from one person, if you take from Stevie Ray Vaughan, you're going to just sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan. But if you can just pull from everybody and just kind of develop your own unique sound, we just keep adding to that. You know, we're like, oh, okay, let's add a Tears for Fears type thing here, or a White Snake thing on top of, you know, Cyclone Temple or Gothic Slam feel. So I luckily, even though I was raised in very, very southern West Virginia, away from everything, like, you know, David Ellefson wasn't a real person to me growing up. You were the guy in like the magazines that we would like, oh,
hunk of the month.
Oh, yeah. So my mom, when I was in junior high, she owned a tape and record store, and she would let me pick out all the music. And I got inundated with all kinds of extreme, weird stuff as an early young kid. So some of my friends were just now getting into Testament, and I was already deeply into Violence, you know what I mean, and Exhorter, and, you know, just the weirdest stuff. So I was able to meet up with a couple guys in our scene that had weird influences as well. And we've just kind of, every time we write an album, we make sure that we have a little powwow. What's our goals? You know what I mean? And we just start demoing. And we've been lucky about that. Nothing's ever really got us over the top financially, but we're not in that for this. We're in it for the love of.
Tate, Ryan, I wanted to ask you, so since you've got your master's degree, right? So you're a smart guy, right? You're obviously a career guy at some level, right? So you make a new Byzantine record, you get that glow, that feeling we all get when we've created something really special, right? And it feels good. Everybody in the room's going, fuck yeah, this is great, this is cool. You know, you feel it, right? And is there ever a feeling of like, this is the one I can finally quit my job, or I can quit my career? I'm going to just sell the house and ride off into Never Land and be a rock star. Do you ever have that feeling?
Unfortunately, no. That has never really come to my brain. I've been in it too long to know, but
also to suffer such foolishness, maybe. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And and I know guys that they make livings off of just doing YouTube videos. They'll do just, you know, video game coverage on YouTube, and that's how they make their living, you know. And it's if you can find a little avenue and get a huge fan base there, that's fantastic. For me, I never really came to me, unfortunately, but it's all well and good. I like what I do, and I like that I'm able to kind of have a sort of split life and have my day life and my night life, and have a wife that allows me to go off and play some shows and make sure that the house is not falling apart and that our cats are fed, and you know what else.
And it all works. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, it all works.
Well, I was going to say, you know, speaking of getting away from the wife and touring and stuff like that, you guys have one of the best tours of the year coming up with Cavalera playing Chaos AD in its entirety, with Fear Factory, you know, kind of celebrating demanufacture. So talk about kind of getting that tour and being able to go out and you basically just hear those two bands every night. It's going to be wild.
This is definitely going to be a highlight moment for us. You know, we all grew up on both of those albums. So to be able to be the opening touring band on this is it's going to be fantastic. We haven't toured in 8 years, so we're really trying to get in tour shape and make sure that we're really good fluff girls for this tour. We're even like at last rehearsal, we're timing ourselves how quickly we can get our stuff set up and off stage, we can, because we just want to make sure that the two bigger bands are just having a great time. We're gonna bring it. We know we're going to have a lot of fans that come out because we don't tour a lot. I've already, I had a buddy hit me up from Australia yesterday that said, I got my tickets to Fort Wayne. I'm like,
oh, nice.
You're crazy. He's like, you're never coming to Australia. So I might as well come.
Probably not. Yeah.
Isn't that something? No sooner put a date up, like, Chicago, we'll see you April 22nd. The first comment is like, when are you guys coming to Chicago? It's like, did you not just read the post? You know what I mean? So, or you say, thank you, Chicago. You were great last night. Next stop, Milwaukee. And then the first comment is, when are you guys coming to Chicago? And so God bless you that you have fans who are willing to travel. And I guess I do as well, but but facing kind of the inevitable, which is I love your band. You're never coming here. So you know what? I'm booking the ticket. I'm going over to see you. And that, like, how cool is that, right? That your music reaches that far.
Well, I know for a fact the first 2 decades, we were younger. Our fans were younger. They didn't have no money to do that. Now we're at the point where our fans are like, most of them are established in their life and they love going watching shows, and they're traveling. They're traveling now. So, but we're getting ready to travel as well. We got some Midwest dates. We're doing the Sunshine Run with them, going up and down Florida. We're going to try to, our last tour 8 years ago was with Sacred Reich. Great tour. We end up going into Canada and losing our van, and we had to leave it, and it fucking destroyed us. So we're going to try not to lose the RV.
How do you lose a van?
How do you lose a van, and then how do they let you out of the country? Like, what are you walking with your guitars?
It was the stars aligned just to make sure that we had the worst Canadian experience possible. Our van was already sputtering because we had taken it all the way to. We're from West Virginia, and the tour had to start in Los Angeles. So we had to drive all the way across the country just to start. Then we come back. By the time we get up to Canada, it literally waits until we get to Toronto and blows the transmission. Had it blown it in Buffalo, we'd have been okay. But we're in Toronto and we're hosed. So we missed the next 2 days, Montreal, and it goes back into New York City, which was the only 2 sold out shows of the Sacred Reich tour. And we're stuck in Toronto, and we finally figure out a way to rent a U-Haul to go across, which I didn't know you could do that, but we did it, and we left it there with the transmission shop. I called back a week later and said, hey, we're ready to pay to get our van. And they said, you picked it up a week ago. And I was like, what are you talking about? They said, yeah, somebody came and picked it up. And they sent me the footage, and it was the city of Toronto. The transmission shop accidentally illegally parked our van, and Toronto towed it. So by the time they told us how much it would be to pay for the fees and stuff, it was more than the van was worth. So I said, Toronto, you have our
so
van.
You gifted them a van. Now, have you been to Toronto since?
No, we're scared to death to go back to Canada.
Of course. Yeah, you might get flagged. Yeah, because when you come back to America,
these guys
it's
again.
always like U.S. passport, welcome home, boys. Come on in, right?
Yeah.
But going the other way, they may take issue about this.
I know.
By the way, here's how much you owe us for the van.
We're going to stay here for a bit. We're hoping in 2026. We're working with Pamela Parks now, which is David's manager, and we've got Continental Touring behind us. We've got Metal Blade. We're hoping in 2026 that we can do the European festival circuit, maybe the American festival circuit, and play to a lot of people in a short amount of time. But yeah, we're just excited to go meet Fear Factory and Cavalera guys and have a good time.
Yeah.
You had I was kind of, perusing the Wikipedia. One thing that jumped out to me was at one point you guys had like a pledge music thing or something about to where if a fan could buy a chance to pick 75% of your set list.
Mm-hmm.
How often did they do that? And then how often did they try to like throw curveballs at you, play crazy deep cuts? And then how did then on top of all of that, how did the crowd respond to, you playing a bunch of deep cuts if they did that?
Ryan, that was before you were in the band, correct?
Yeah, just right before.
Yeah, so we had quite a few fans buy that package, and we still owe a couple of them. We just now
Toronto and New York City.
we just now played Westfield, Massachusetts like a month ago, and one of the fans that showed up, they were like, I bought a package. It's weird you mentioned that, Josh. He said, I bought a package to pick out the set list. So are you guys playing just Indian Code tonight? And I was like, God dog it.
Yeah.
No, but next time, you know what I mean?
Hey, it's cool, dude. The Kiss Army still owes me something for the $5 I sent them back in 1977. And I was going to bring it up to Gene and Paul, and then I realized reading their books, they had nothing to do with it. It's like some fan club run by some fans in Terre Haute, Indiana, right? So I'm like, all right, I can't even hit them up for the $5 back. So anyway, so I get it.
That's funny. Yeah.
How often did they like throw curveballs at you and stuff like that? Like
well, the thing is, Josh, they would have to tell us in advance. So they couldn't show up at the show and be like, this cut. So they tell us in advance. At that point, we had worked up like 30 some songs ready to go. Even though we only needed like 8 for the tour, we worked up 30. So we were kind of good to go. And with my Southern charm, like, you know what I mean? I could diffuse them. If they picked something, I'd be like, oh man, you know what? I think you really want to hear this song. And they'd be like, yes, sir. Kind of dodged the bullets there. But yeah, we've got ourselves in a couple pickles offering some stuff that we can't come through.
Can't deliver on.
No, yeah, exactly.
Hey, so OJ, so that brings up a good point. Because I noticed this when I met Mustaine back in '83 and we're starting Megadeth. A part of a band, of course, is the talent of the players. Another major part is writing songs that are compelling, that connect. And then there's this third thing, which is just being able to sell it, like being a salesman. And you strike me as the kind of guy who, you've got pretty good chops to be able to sell stuff, right? So how does, and not everybody in the band probably is that or should be that, because that band, you'd never get along with each other. But so how important is that to just be that guy that's kind of, selling the product, if you will?
Well, it seems like I'm in my personal life, I'm kind of a quiet person. Like I don't like to do social media and I don't like to talk a lot, but I realize as the founding guy in the band, I have to fill that role. And I also know that the connection that, like, when I talk to you or Phil Rind or somebody in another band, once I get a connection with that band, I love them even more. So I know that if I just connect with our fans, even on the smallest little thing, it will keep them around for life. And I'm really bad with names, but I'm really good with faces. So sometimes I'll have fans show up and I will be like, hey, I remember seeing you 5 years ago in Boston. And they're like, hot damn. You know what I mean? And then they buy everything. So, and the guys in the band, like after we play, sometimes we don't have a merch person. So they always make sure that I run to the merch first. So I love to do that. It definitely covers the losses on the road from, low guarantees and stuff like that. But yeah, I know I'm a t-shirt salesman and I'm fine with that. I do enjoy talking to people, but it is kind of counterintuitive to my actual nature.
So talk about the during COVID and the quarantine and everything else, you came out with one of the cooler kind of quarantine jams, everybody jamming at home, doing the shortest straw with Chris Cale, Mike Portnoy, Phil Dimmel, and Doc Coyle, man.
Yeah.
How did you wrangle those 4 dudes together to say, hey, let's do this jam?
Well, I didn't do the wrangling. It started with Chris. I was doing nothing but drinking, as most people were. Me and my wife, we thought, well, shit, it's the end of the world. What are we going to do? I found about 8 jugs of moonshine in my barn that I forgot. And me and her got really dark for a while. And then Chris Cale texted me. And he was like, let's do a quarantine jam. And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm out of shape. I haven't sang in a while. And then he said, you get to pick the song. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I always want to do Shorter Straw. I think I could sing it. And then it kind of went that way. We asked Chris Adler to do it. He was supposed to be the drummer. And he was like, no, man, I don't want no part of that smoke. He's like, I don't think it's going to do well. And then somehow we got Mike Portnoy. So that was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah. And I've been friends with Doc Coyle forever. One of our first tours back in 2004, we toured with
God Forbid
and Goat Horror. And and so me and Doc's been friends forever. And then Phil and I became friends a long time ago. Apparently Machine Head are big Byzantine fans, and for a couple of years, they would play our songs before they go on, like as a pump up the crowd. I didn't know it. So Phil was in, and that turned out pretty cool. It's got a lot of looks, and I think it got us a couple new fans,
Right.
The other really cool cover that we did, which I think turned out even better, was with Ryan, where we did Megadeth Tornado of Souls. And that was fun.
Yeah.
There you go.
That was the stars aligning, because we were actually supposed to do that with Nick Menza, and then he passed away. And the whole thing was like, oh, this is never going to happen. We've already recorded it. And 3 or 4 years later, 5 years later, I can't remember, I contacted his manager and I said, dude, you need to give me those tracks. I know you're sitting on them. Please let us release them, and he gave them to us, and we were able to shoot the video around Nick's footage of him recording those drum tracks. And it turned out, I'm so proud of that cover.
Yeah.
Now, is that out? Is that out on the web?
Yes, sir.
It
yes,
is.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, it's not for sale, but it is out on YouTube, and Sirius XM plays it all the time on Corridor of Covers. They say it's one of their favorite, most requested covers that they get is us doing that with Nick Menza.
So that's where all that publishing money comes from.
Yes, sir.
Maybe.
Like, where the hell is that coming from? Oh, from you guys.
Dave, I tell you, it's the weirdest thing. But like, I feel like I have one of the holy grail of pieces of raw footage or audio, because Nick sent me Dave Mustaine's raw guitar tracks for that song.
Wow.
So I have the 2 mono tracks. I have the left and the right. And I swear, if you listen to it, you cannot find a flaw. It is, you guys were on such another level of human beings at that time. Like, you have no idea how you impacted the metal world. Maybe you do, but I'm telling you, you changed mine and Ryan's life many times.
Yep,
yeah,
I appreciate that.
And Josh.
yeah, and
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
and you know
that.
how it is, right? Because look, everybody here is making connections into their fans, and we've got people that our music touches. I mean, when you're in your own skin and you're standing in your own shoes, you're not as aware of that, right? So you're just doing, you're playing the next track, right? You're recording the next song. And and in particular, that record, that was not a mainstream record, and it's funny that Tornado of Souls is one of the more mainstream songs from it because it's got this kind of herky-jerky rhythm. It doesn't necessarily have any tempo shifts, but it's not this, shout it out loud kind of, we're not going to take it kind of chorus, you know what I mean? It's very, you know what I'm saying? It's got a lot of, little awkward moving pieces, So I always found it odd that song was the one that connected with people, but for some reason it did.
Yeah. It wasn't a single, correct? It was not one.
It was not. It's grown in popularity within the last 10 years, 20 years, especially, but the last 10 years, more than ever. It's one of the most requested songs off that record now, which is funny.
Maybe because I mean, there are so many things magical about it. For me as a guitar player, I know it separates the men from the boys, because if you really try to play that song, and you think you're in shape, you think you're a pro, that song will let you know, nah, you still got a couple months.
Well, you talk about, being in shape for touring, your stamina, just having your chops dialed. Everything on that record, it was definitely pushed right to the edge, right to the limit of barely able to play it, and then go one faster. You know what I mean? And a lot of Popeye arm in the studio while you're playing. But and thinking about that guitar part in particular, all the down picking, and it's pretty relentless. It's unmerciful for sure. And so that's cool that you got a chance to hear it. But even cooler that you got that performance with Nick. I mean, what a great moment to have. We had a bunch of drum tracks from him, and I was in the studio one day doing something. And I said, "Hey, pull up that drum track that I sent over of Nick's," and I just started writing kind of Judas Priest riffs to it, like these kind of mid-tempo, riffs, and just because of his performance, you could write songs, and we actually did that. We actually have some songs that we wrote. A couple of them are on the DVD, the Blu-ray that's out right now. Songs that kind of co-writing with Nick posthumously, because his drum parts, his drum tracks are there. Let's write, let's write with Nick and start putting stuff over it. So
that's awesome.
Well, what a great connection.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you guys we're not going to take you all day here to chat, but thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to hang with me and Josh. And I always let Josh close it up with the question of the day, or kind of the final closer. So take it away, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is going to be for both Ryan and OJ. That with the kind of being in West Virginia. I mean, 12 Volt was out of Nashville. Obviously, David grew up in Minnesota. He did make the trip to LA. Did you ever think about moving out of West Virginia? Did you ever find it to be a hindrance? I'll start with, I always thought being in Nashville was nice because 3 or 4 hours in every direction, there's another major city. So you could do weekend tours and go St. Louis and Louisville and Memphis and down into Alabama and things like that. So, did you find being from West Virginia a hindrance to the band, or did you, kind of embrace it?
Ryan?
Well, I currently live in Pittsburgh, so I'm I am originally from West Virginia. I lived there for 35 years or so. So that's how I met OJ and the guys. But living in Pittsburgh, it's a little different. The tours stopping through are a little bit more frequent. But my time in West Virginia, and us considering ourselves a West Virginia band because we're all born and raised there, I feel like it's not really a hindrance. I try to kind of wear it as a nice little patch on my sleeve, like a little bit of pride. Like, there's not a whole lot of bands that kind of make it out of West Virginia. So I feel like it's
like you and Boba Flex.
You did the impossible.
Yeah,
right?
Karma to
You
Burn, and I don't know if you guys have heard Chum, but
Chum.
Yeah, they were on what, Nuclear Blast?
No, they were on Century Media.
Century Media, that's right.
Karma to Burn was Roadrunner. Boba Flex was Eclipse, and there was about 4. And then Wrathchild America was from Martinsburg, West Virginia. And the weird thing is that our scene is so small and spread out that the bands who do make it out sound nothing like each other.
Yeah,
It's not a hardcore scene. It's not a death metal scene. Like. Right. All have their own little unique thing, but Ryan's right. It's definitely a badge of honor. So I tried to move out. Like when I hit 18 and graduated high school, I applied only for colleges outside of West Virginia to get the hell out of here. And I went to Waco, Texas, because I wanted to get near Dallas, because Pantera was popping off, and Dallas was a great scene. In the 90s.
Baylor down there? Did you go to Baylor?
Yeah, I went to Baylor. I hung out at Baylor for like a year.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you guys are like way smart and everything, right? You guys are really fucking smart playing metal. It's like, what the hell?
I think we're blowing the stereotype out of the water.
Yeah.
West Virginia people.
You're from West Virginia. You're smart. You play metal. None of this makes any sense.
we got our teeth, like Ryan and I.
Yeah. See, Ryan did it backwards. He went to college, then the band. Where David went the band and then college.
There you go. There's no wrong thing. But yeah, I ended up out there for about a year, and then I end up getting involved with a band that was Branch Davidian people, and I had to get out, so I came back the year after that, and then I stayed in West Virginia, and I knew that there was talent here if I could just mine it correctly, and we've cultivated the right group of guys, and I think it's added into a little bit of our originality.
So wait a minute, wait. We're not going to gloss over this Branch Davidian thing, right?
Oh, I was coming on that one too.
All right, whole new chapter, new interview.
All right,
2.0. So wait a minute. So you're in Waco, Texas. Branch Davidian. All right, come on, expand on that. Did you like run into these guys at like a barbecue joint, or like from church? Like where'd you find these guys?
Like the month I flew into Waco, was the month after the compound burned down, after the ATF had went in and destroyed them all. So some of them had got out. Dave Thibodeau, which was David Koresh's drummer, got out. Eddie Goings, which was his guitar player, got out. Different people. My parents, they were like, you do not go down there and get messed up with them religious nuts. The first band I get into was with Eddie Goings, who was David Koresh's guitar player. I shit you not. I put a flyer up at the Waco Mall, and he called me, and we did a band.
He needed a gig, dude. His band broke up. Yeah.
We did it.
you know, it's funny. I was told the same thing in Minnesota. That in California they had the Moonies, right? And we had a neighbor friend who went off to California and joined the Moonies, right? There was like a cult, right? So same thing. Don't you go out there and fall into one of those cults, you know? So as we're starting Megadeth and going, this could be a cult. I don't know what this is, but
you know, something wild. OJ is I've actually interviewed David Thibodeau. I interviewed him about David Koresh's guitar, because I was watching the Waco mini series or whatever they had, and I got fascinated with it, and I saw his name, and I saw that he's actually in the thing, and I looked him up on Facebook, found him, and I knew that he was a drummer, and that he played with David Koresh. So I was like, that was my kind of I'm a music podcast. I'm going to reach out and say, hey, you know, I don't want to talk about the religion. I want to talk about David Koresh's musical stylings or whatever, and like what he was into that way. And we had a long hour talk about, you know, music and, you know, was David Koresh a good guitar player? What was his influence? He was really big into Yngwie and Joe Satriani and all that stuff. And yeah, it was a cool conversation. And actually I keep in touch with David Thibodeau. It's really weird to have that one in your friend group.
That is, you know, not just Texas, America, the world was watching. Yeah. The world was watching that. That was such a weird time. And to know that kind of happened to those people. When I was down in Waco, the general consensus was everybody liked David Koresh down there. He was at strip clubs. He played in bands.
Everything's broken.
So he was like, and this isn't to make light of what happened because people died. It's not to obviously make light of it, but it speaks to the sort of cult of personality that would attract.
Right.
I mean, look, we have presidents like this, right? But musicians that have this cult of personality type of attraction to them, where people will kind of believe anything they say. It's you know what I mean? It's this sort of mesmerizing presence about them, and it sounds like, because I don't know anything about that other than just watching some Netflix special, but it sounds like he was probably one of those guys. Like was he like a rocker dude or like
super charismatic?
But David Thibodeau met David Koresh at the Guitar Center in Hollywood. That's like on the Sunset Strip or whatever. Like that's where they met, and David Thibodeau followed David Koresh out to Waco, and that's how they met. They met at a Guitar Center.
Wow. Yeah.
See, I'm reflecting on my own journey right now to see where was the XY axis of this.
You were probably at the Guitar Center with David Koresh and Dave Thibodeau.
No, I had a Dave of my own. Right.
4 Davids in the band.
I mean, look, I played in a band with a guy who was very charismatic and very, I know what that is, and we weren't a cult leader and we weren't doing anything like that, right? Or that kind of stuff. But having been in a band that had that, this mesmerizing fan attraction, because sometimes I'd be like, why are people so attracted to Dave like that? And he had just a very and he still does. I mean, people will defend him online. They'll defend him over stuff, right, wrong, or otherwise. And it's just what it is, and it's not, doesn't make people go do evil, bad things, I'd like to think. But this catches my attention when I hear about this,
Yeah, I got a whiff of that, and I realized that it was kind of dangerous. And even though Eddie didn't believe in any of that stuff, just the fact that he was involved in it, and I've always been a good kid, and I could hear my parents in my back like, you ain't going to get messed up with him. So I was like, I need to quit this band, go back home, and form Byzantine. And 25 years later, here we are.
Yeah. So we digress. So thank you for taking us on the deep dive to Waco. I really appreciate it. Well, guys, thanks so much. Thanks for the interview. Best of luck now with the new album and everything. And we will keep an eye on it and keep promoting it from over here on our side as well. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Good talking to you guys. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.